Welcome to the East Bank Sports Show, proudly brought to you by the Fanatical Elves, a member of the Fans First Sports Network. Broadcasting live from the vibrant East Bank of the Flats in Cleveland, Ohio. Join us as we delve into the heart of Cleveland sports. It's your hosts, Noah and Matt.
Cleveland, welcome into the East Bank Sports Show. It's been a hell of a day for me, but as they say, the show must go on, and this ain't about me right now. This is about Cleveland sports and what we got going on in terms of the Guardians and the Cleveland Browns. Shout out the Cavs, preseason game tomorrow. Come see your boy on center court. Matt, how we doing, man?
I'm not too bad. I'm excited to talk Cleveland sports. Got some interesting things to bring up today.
Yeah, and I want to set, even though it kind of feels like a somber note now, because yes, of course, we are filming this. We are live currently at a cool 9:33 p.m. following the Guardians' loss to the Detroit Tigers. Even though they were able to survive, Scooble, Emmanuel Clase, unfortunately gave up his first ever 3-run homer. Get into that in a second. There's some positives to talk about too. So I want to start with the guards today for once instead of the Cleveland Browns, because the Cleveland Browns, well, we'll get into that too. Matt, what are your thoughts? Guardians versus Tigers, 2 games into the series. What are your takeaways, thoughts, everything that you've seen from this team thus far?
I mean, kind of like you were just getting at, I know we lost today, and I know it's kind of a weird feeling seeing Clase not be the reason, but, you know, be the factor in it, be the person giving up the runs. I feel very comfortable, confident. I'm not really worried about this loss. I mean, we went up against a Cy Young pitcher. I mean, yeah, we only had a handful of hits, but we had a lot of hard hit balls that, you know, recorded as outs because they were right to someone, or a lot of hard hit foul balls, you know. I think we've looked pretty good. I'm not too concerned in the slightest losing today's game. I mean, it was a 0-0 game through 8 innings. The inning goes different, we win.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I want to kind of go over some of my game 1 thoughts first, and then I'll go into game 2. I know it's the fresher, but I want to give our props to game 1 because that was a hell of a start to our playoff run. Obviously, the Guardians win that game 7-0. Open the lid with a Lane Thomas home run, and anybody who was questioning why that was our main get at the trade deadline, you can let it rest now because he was obviously a good get. He basically buried the Detroit Tigers in inning 1 of a playoff game. That is enough of an acquisition and enough of a positive for me. Something else that I was brought up to me when I was talking about the Guardians, you know, post the game, that kind of thing, was the Guardians are 44-15 when Stephen Kwan gets on base twice. That's really telling as you go into game 2, as Stephen Kwan struck out multiple times. I think he had a pot. He never got on base, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I'm pretty sure he had a pop fly at one point. To me, that's telling. I think there's a big part of this offense and this offense success when your leadoff batter does good things. What else are you thinking? What are some of your thoughts from game 1, Matt?
I mean, I think our pitching looked as expected. I was a little worried, you know, having so much time off that they might look a little rusty coming into the first game of the playoffs. But, I mean, all the pitchers we ran out there, I think threw the ball very well. There's nothing to be upset about on that end. And, I mean, the defense looked solid as well as it has all year. So really nothing changed there in my mind.
Yeah, I loved Bobby's energy, especially when we got, you know, he got pulled and he was rallying the crowd. I love that. I love that he is our ace now and he has grown into that role. Matt, were you surprised that we pitched Clase in game 1, even though we were up 7-0 at that point? Why not?
I mean, kind of like I was just saying, we've had a lot of days off. Let's get him out there in a game that's meaningless and get his arm back into it before we put him into a 0-0 game.
Yeah, that's fair, I guess. I was a little surprised, I'm not going to lie. I thought we weren't going to see him, and I thought they were going to save him just because, but, it is playoff baseball after all. The last thing I wanted to touch on game one wise was I loved the day one lineup, the Quan into Fry, into Jose, into Naylor, into Lane. That is a dirty five. And they did that same thing. They just flipped Lane and Naylor today for game two. So I'm loving this playoff lead off of the lineup. What are your thoughts about that lineup?
I mean, I like it. I think it's definitely the best way to go. Like you mentioned, we switched Lane and Naylor today. I think that can happen, throughout the playoffs either way. I'm not too concerned about one spot with those two. But I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's the way to go for sure. It gives us the best potential for base hit, and then power through behind it.
Yeah, I am with you on that. Game two, what were some of your takeaways, just out of curiosity? Obviously, we lost. I want to know this because I saw this on X. I saw this on some Cleveland sports radio I was listening to on my way back from my hometown today. There were people saying they thought we should have intentionally walked Kerry Carpenter in that situation where he ended up actually hitting the 3-run homer. To me, hindsight's 2020 in that instance. What do you think?
I mean, you're 100% right with that. Hindsight's 2020. You have the best closer in baseball throwing the ball. That thought never crossed my mind, and I was honestly kind of surprised that it was even on the dock to talk about today because it never crossed my mind that was an option there. Like, why would we do that?
Yeah, I am with you on that. To me, I know Kerry Carpenter is a great bat, but if we're worried about a guy who is pinch hitting in a situation and want to intentionally walk him because of that, to me, it's not showing confidence in your, face of the franchise pitcher. And it just doesn't make sense to me to do that. So I'm with you. I think it's a hindsight's 2020. Now, if I knew he was going to hit a 3-run homer, of course, I'm intentionally walking him and going to the next guy in the lineup and hopefully getting out of the jam. But, in that instance, it's kind of hard to be like, yes, no, maybe so, whatever in between. What else are you thinking from this game? I had a takeaway that I think might be a little hot for you, Matt. John Kenzie should be an everyday starter in the outfield at this point. You're frozen.
Ooh.
Are you there?
Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying, and I don't hate what you're saying. I just really think it's interesting that you're so okay with his cold of a bat as recent as it has been.
That's a fair criticism to my take. I wanted to see what you had to say on this. Continue on.
Especially when you were such a Miles Straw hit. Anyway, moving on. I mean, I don't.
You
hate
cannot
it.
compare a power hitter like John Kenzie Noel to Miles Straw just because he's cold for a little bit. That's crazy to me. But continue.
I knew I
You're
wasn't
just
going to
trolling
be
me
able to
at
sneak
this
that
point,
one
man.
by.
No, you were not.
No, I mean, he is a phenomenal defender. I think he played very well in the outfield today. I think our outfield played elite today. I mean, you had that Quan play where, oh my God, I couldn't tell if he caught it for 3 replays or not.
And then that last one where you just see the leather get under it and you're like, let's go, man. Anyway, yes. To me, the reason I have this take is because of how big of an arm he has and how hot of a bat he can be. I think he's our best option out of a lot of the outfielders that we've seen, come in, go from being called up or, being rotated in out there. Obviously, he's not going to be an everyday guy like Steven Kwan, but he should be our consistent starter at right field for a majority of the reps until further notice, in my opinion. And then obviously see what happens next year if we retain a guy like Lane Thomas and if Chase DeLauder gets called up, that kind of thing. There's some nuance here with this take, but I wanted to see what your reaction was because I knew you were going to have some choice words for me saying that he should just be the starter no matter what. Something else I want to shout out. I know Skubal is going to get all the hype and the fame because it's Skubal and he's the Cy Young favorite. I would say Class A should be, but I feel like I have to eat my words a little bit for all my Detroit fans and friends out there. just because of today's game, even though Class A should still be the Cy Young winner. Matt Boyd had a day. Big fan of that game. He got himself out of some sticky situations a couple times. I'm very happy with his performance. What about you, Matt?
I mean, in my mind, coming into this game, I think I still kind of had the question mark of, I mean, he had 8 appearances, I believe, up until this point this year.
Yeah.
And he looked very solid in those 8, if not, elite in those 8 appearances. But that's not a lot of time coming off an injury, being an older guy. Like, I was just kind of concerned. And then he came out absolutely shoving. And I was very happy with how he pitched today. And ideally, he gets more playoff starts for us, which I think he will for sure.
2 last things I want to cover on this game, too, unless you have any other takes and you can sprinkle them in between. Noel's hit by pitch, when he was at bat, hitting his hand. I winced watching that, man. I had to take a double glare because I thought maybe he was going to end up breaking something. But when he put that slide mitt on the hand and everybody went crazy in the stadium, that was another good moment. And what ended up not being a great game because, of course, we lost. But there were still moments there that got you excited as a Cleveland fan. What else are you thinking about the Guardians at this point in time?
I mean, I think one of the biggest things, and I've, kind of said this about, even different sports, like with the Browns and whatnot, is energy is such like a big thing to me in like how a team is, how the vibes of a team are. And even, post loss, even post 3-run home run in the 9th, the energy and the vibes of this team looked, we weren't out of it. The game wasn't over until it was over. I'm very happy with how this team looks and feels. And I'm not worried at all that we lost one game.
Yeah, it's disheartening because it's the first time we've seen Class A falter all season, and it had to, of course, happen during a playoff game that I think we could have won. I'm not upset. I'm not discouraged by this team like I am with some of the other Cleveland sports teams, Cleveland Browns. As I am with them, though. You know what I'm saying. I know I was doing a bit there. I still feel confident in this team's ability to make a run. I feel confident in this team's ability to make it to the ALCS and make it out of the division series, despite how hot Detroit is and despite Emmanuel Clase giving up a 3-run homer. My last question I had for you, and this is something I was thinking about on my way back, do you think this is going to mess with the confidence of what has been an extremely confident Emmanuel Clase?
It's funny you bring that up. That was actually the last note point I had that I was 50-50 on bringing up.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely putting his mental on watch just for the fact of he's never given up a home run like that before.
Yeah, that's his first never given up homer. It's his first multiple homer, I feel like. Maybe he's given up a 2-runner before. I don't remember off the top of my head.
And I mean, like, he's never given up a home run to lose a play. Like, there's a whole bunch of things that might be, like, affecting him. And we've never seen him react to it before. Now, obviously, He is the most talented closer in the game. I'm not super worried about it affecting him. But I would like, game 3 to be a 1-0 game in the 9th. And we call, I guess 1-0 in the 8th, and we call him in to open the – or no, I'm speaking stupid. Anyway, moving on.
I get what you're saying. At the end of the game, call him in, have him close it, get the save, and win the game, win the series. Basically, to put it in shorter turns and help you out, buddy.
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. Matt, I'm really excited about what happens on Wednesday. I know we're going to be at Detroit, unfortunately, and I know it's going to be a 3:00 game, which also sucks because I'm a 9-to-5er in my day-to-day life. So half of that game I'm going to be spent watching it in the confines of my cubicle. But nonetheless, I'm still excited to see what this team does Wednesday and Thursday, and if need be, on Saturday. I'm going to take us to commercial real quick. When we come back, we are going to answer all the burning questions about the Cleveland Browns that I have come up with to talk to Matt about, as well as the news that broke directly following the Guardians game that might have some of you Cleveland fans a little upset. We'll be right back with the East Bank Sports Show. And we are back with the East Bank Sports Show. Thank you for tuning in. If you are tuned in, please hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel at East Bank Sports Show. Helps us grow the channel, the brand, the shows we do here, whether it be the East Bank Sports Show or the At the Office edition of the East Bank Sports Show. Make sure you check out everybody on the Fanatical Elves that also do shows here through Fans First Sports Network. The Fanatical Elves have a lot of great content out there. We are actually going live as they are doing the Stirring the Pot show with Lou Marconi and Johnny Cleveland. Great show over there. It's one of my favorite ones to tune into, aside from, of course, our own. Matt, it's been a treacherous couple of weeks for the Cleveland Browns faithful that you and I are, that the rest of Cleveland is, that the Browns backers worldwide are. What do the Browns do from here after being blown out by the Commanders? I don't even remember the score. It was like 34-10, I believe, was the final. I want to know what you think. There's been a lot of narratives getting spun. There's been a lot of benching Watson narratives getting spinned. There's been a lot of play calling narratives being spinned. What is your initial reaction to everything post the blowout loss to the Washington Commanders?
My initial reaction is it's absolutely wild to me that at this point, Kevin Stefanski is willing to at least give a little ground on the play calling front and be like, well, we're looking into it. But he's still willing to stand up there and we're not making a change at quarterback.
Do you think that this is a Haslam call at this point?
It's got to be.
It has to be, right? It has to be coming from above, that he's not at least thinking it, because how can you, as a two-time coach of the year, go into the locker room with vets like Zadarius Smith, like Myles Garrett, like Nick Chubb, like Joel Bitonio? The list goes on and on about some of these guys that are here with the idea that they were going to make a deep playoff run, and tell them that they aren't going to at least think, at least entertain the idea of putting a different quarterback out there. When you put this guy out there 5 times so far this season, and 3 out of those 5 games are definitive stinkers by him, definitive bottom tier QB play, regardless of his contract, regardless of what he used to do in the NFL, we are talking doo-doo, caca, bottom level quarterback play. How can you say that to those guys when he isn't even healthy for this team half the time? You get what I'm saying, Matt?
I mean, absolutely. We've been the worst offensive team in the league this year. And yeah, you can point a lot of fingers to not having a run game, not having an offensive line, blah, 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 whatever. Your offense runs through your quarterback. We're not the worst team when it comes to running the ball. We're down there, but we're not the worst. We are the worst passing team, though. I mean, I'm sick of hearing excuses for the guy. He's been downright horrible. He has 2 games in the single digits for QBR. 2 in 5 weeks. And that's your franchise guy. There's no way Kevin Stefanski is sitting there going, yeah, that's what I want to do. And, I mean, there have been rumors, reports, whatever, that, Kevin never liked Deshaun, never wanted to go get him. It was always a Haslam thing. And I think it still is a Haslam thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's going to be really unfortunate if we get to the point where the people who are getting scapegoated for this by the owner is not the owner being like, I messed up, I let this go on too long, don't be mad at Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. But it's going to be Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski getting fired when they have had proven success in the NFL. And I'm not putting this all on Deshaun Watson. There has been plenty of problems for this offense. I don't even want to get mad at the defense. The defense has had some missed tackles, some issues that they do need to clean up. But the biggest problem to me is the fact that they are always on the field. That's the biggest problem, bar none, is the fact that they have to be on the field for 75% of the game, because our offense is 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Interception. Dumb misthrow over someone's head by 10 yards. That's just kind of where I'm at. So I got to ask you this question, Matt. Do you think at this point in time, Kevin Stefanski's seat is hot?
I mean, kind of going with what you just said, it probably is, but it shouldn't be.
I am kind of with you at this point. I think let me ask you this. Do you think Kevin has lost the locker room right now?
I don't know. That's a hard one for me to answer because I can see two very different storylines happening in that locker room. And the Cleveland locker room has always been a very private locker room, I feel, for the most part.
Until we get people like Odell Beckham and his dad and stuff like that. But that stuff doesn't normally come out of the Cleveland locker room, at least with this regime, until after players and coaches leave. I do agree with you.
So, I mean, I could very much see this going away where, like you just said, when he sits down with the vets of the team, the Myles Garrett, the Nick Chubb, and he's like, guys, listen, I mean, I'm sorry. I don't want to be doing this, but, above me, I'm getting forced into it. If he's like that with the vets, I think there's a shot he still has it, and it's kind of just a thing of waiting and biding time, but nobody wants to be doing that with such a short clock in the NFL.
Right.
So, I
I
mean,
was
at
going to
some
say, but
point,
what?
he's definitely got to start to lose it. And then you start to look at some of the play calls, decisions, time management things that are happening, and you just pile everything on top of itself. It's concerning, at least.
Yeah, I was going to say that can be great that he's saying this, but what does it matter to those guys who are thinking, well, I'm in my 30s or I'm coming up on my 30s or whatever, and I want a ring. I can get paid by any team in this league. I want a ring. It's just frustrating. And again, I don't think this is all completely on Deshaun Watson. I think there's plenty of problems with this offense. I think there's been games Deshaun Watson has played where he's then at least a serviceable quarterback. But through 5 weeks, what my eye test is telling me, and I'm not trying to go off of stats and all of this stuff that an analytical front office like the Cleveland Browns do, what my eye test is telling me is this team does not want to play for Deshaun Watson like they have for other quarterbacks, including but not limited to PJ Walker, Joe Flacco, DTR, Jacoby Brissett, Baker Mayfield, and any of the other random guys that have had to throw a hat in a ring and play a game here and there too. I can't even remember the guy who had to start for us for the Raiders about 2 years ago with an injury. But I digress. I just don't see this energy of, I don't know. I don't want to say Cleveland Browns football, but damn it, there was energy last year, and there's none of that this year. And I don't think Kevin Stefanski can lose guys that quickly. And if he has, then I guess his seat needs to be hot too. Because if that is the only reason that this team isn't performing, then I guess I'm there with them, despite thinking change at the signal caller and the play caller, both ways, could help this team. I want to ask you a couple questions that I have come up with watching the game yesterday, going through some of my thoughts today. Do you think someone, I don't think someone is at this point. I think we would have had the news on Monday morning. Do you think someone should or would get fired after this Washington? Do you think someone should get fired after this Washington Commanders performance?
No. But I wouldn't be shocked if it happens. I don't think someone should, but if it happens, it would be a very Haslam thing to do for it to happen in about 4 minutes here at 10 o'clock at night.
Right. I'm with you. It's giving me the vibes of when we were really bad at football. And some of these are reaches, right? Like I want to see what your reaction is to these questions because these are takes I've seen out there. Would you rather have Deshaun Kaiser or Deshaun Watson right now?
I'm ready to defend this one too. Deshaun Kaiser.
Why is that?
I'm ready. All right. Let's go, base. First off the rip, 33 versus 21 QBR. Give me the 33. That's a little better. That's Deshaun Kaiser, by the way, in case you were curious.
Did you pull those stats up for the show?
Yes, I did. I absolutely did.
So Deshaun Kaiser's, what was that, 2017 season, he had a 33 total QBR compared to Deshaun Watson's 22 this season.
Yes.
That's absurd. Continue.
We would have had years of picks to build around him by now. He would have had plenty of time to develop. We wouldn't have spent $240 million on him. We would have been able to build the roster up better. And, we wouldn't have had a horrible human being the face of our franchise and making us back to the laughing stock of the league again.
Yeah. Real quick sidebar. Wednesday's show, at the office edition of the East Bank Sports Show, we are doing what would have the alternate reality have been if the Cleveland Browns did not do the Deshaun Watson trade. So make sure you check that out. I have my script up over here on the side for what my alternate reality would have looked like. And trust me, I think we all would have been a lot more happy. How bad does it hurt, though, seeing a guy like Joe Flacco and, dare I say, Baker Mayfield ball out at the start of this NFL season while we're over here at 1-4?
That's what I had written down because I wasn't letting you get out of it. It hurts way worse to see Baker balling out the way he did because I was a Baker believer from day 3. I won't say day 1, but
I won't beat a dead horse of my take. I don't think Baker was the fit here. I think it was his time to go. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You'll hear more about this on Wednesday. However, it does still hurt that a guy we drafted at a position that we have needed desperate help at for years and years, 25 years since 1999, go ball out for another team. Thankfully, on the other side in the NFC, but still ball out nonetheless. Which is worse, the 0-16 season or this season if it ended today?
That's another tough one purely because of recency bias. But I think the two things that are important here, and I'm sure you're thinking the same way about this, 0-16 followed 1-15, not, 11-6 in a playoff berth, and expectations and a great roster and a bunch of different. So that's why I say this hurts more, is we were supposed to be good, we should be good, and we just aren't. Whereas when we went 0-16, it was kind of a, we suck, let's throw a parade and have fun with it.
Yeah, I still say the 0-16 hurts more because it made us the laughing stock that we're still trying to. I mean, we were the laughing stock already, don't get me wrong. It solidified it, and it's allegations we still are trying to beat to this day, and it hasn't. I mean, it has gotten better, don't get me wrong. But this year, it doesn't feel like it's gotten much better. But I will gladly take 1-4 and the memories that I've had along. I don't know. It sucks because I can't even say it's fun football to watch right now. Neither was the 0-16 season, but you know what?
I'm not letting you go with that. We had 4 or 5 games that 0-16 year that went to overtime and a handful of other ones that were 1-score games. That's exciting, fun football to watch. We're getting blown out by the Raiders.
Okay. But all of those almosts gets trumped by a 1 win so far against the Jacksonville Jaguars in my mind. At least there's 1 on this season compared to the 0-16 so far. And if we lose the rest of the season, I would still be shocked regardless of how bad the team has looked thus far.
I think I disagree with you heavily on this one. I mean, we're supposed to be good, and we're losing to Washington and Las Vegas, and who knows who else.
That's fair. I still will stick to my guns of what I think because at least there's something there. The expectations definitely do make it hurt more, but at least there's good players and storylines to follow. There was nothing to follow that season. There was, as soon as DeShone Kizer stepped on the field for the Browns and played 2 games, you knew that was chalked already, especially with how our front office was churning and burning quarterbacks and players and coaches and all of that. We could argue this forever. It's a meaningless conversation. I wanted to bring that topic up because people were saying, in your point of view, that the 0-16 season feels better than this does right now. I think it's just a load of recency bias. The last question I want to ask, because I am very adamant in this, do you think Deshaun Watson will get another job in the NFL if the Browns and him continue down the path of not panning out that it looks like it's going towards.
There's absolutely no way he does.
I don't think anybody, regardless of the accolades he had beforehand, would take on the baggage of Deshaun Watson in order for a backup quarterback, regardless of what might still be in there somewhere, even though he hasn't shown it in 3 to 4 years now. -1 Ravens half of football, Browns versus Ravens half of football that I held on hope to for just, a little bit too long now in hindsight. But again, as we said at the beginning of the show, hindsight is 2020. Matt, do you want to talk real quick about the news that broke that you sent me and they were also talking about on the radio and on X as soon as you were texting me about it, just so we could go over that and then wrap the show up?
I mean, I'll, go over it real quick. It's like we kind of have, said in the past, it's not really our wheelhouse of topics to cover, but on the non-football world side of things, Deshaun Watson did settle with the most recent lawsuit with the lady. Apparently she was uncooperative with the NFL, meaning they won't have an investigation, they won't suspend him. So I know a lot of people were thinking down that avenue of might be a way out of the contract there. It's not going to work out for us that way. It's not really our cup of tea to talk about what we think. I don't really think with this situation too much. We've kind of said our piece with how we feel about the guy.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think people are going to be upset because they were hoping it would go down a route of maybe being able to void that contract or whatever. I said it on my shows, a lot of talking heads in the Cleveland sports world that are way larger than what our channel is at this point in time have said the same thing, that it is a long shot and a wish for something like that to happen where they could void the contract. So I'm not surprised they went this route to, continue to try to clear his name, at least in terms of what the NFL cares about, and move forward with whatever is going on with the Browns season. Real quick, last question Browns wise, I just thought about it because normally we like to cover the upcoming matchup, but it's just been so disheartening to do so as of late. What percentage chance do you think the Browns have to beat the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday?
I'm going to give it a good 22.3.
That was really granular for no reason. I'm going to put it at 31 just because, A, I got to be optimistic and a little bit, more lenient than you are. B, there is still some chance there because they have been playing shaky football and our defenses look good. And I think we'll see some interceptions be thrown by Jalen Hurts, but they are still more cohesive and better than us on a lot of facets. Even though talent-wise we should match up pretty evenly, I'm just not seeing it right now with the Browns unless something dramatic changes here from Monday to Sunday. So we got like about 5 days worth of football before there's a decision there. Let's go into final thoughts and takes, Matt. Final thoughts and takes. I want you to lead us off because I'm going to get – actually, you know what? I'm going to lead us off so we can end on a high note. I want to touch on something a little bit bigger than sports, a little bit bigger than everything. I had a personal, I don't want to call it a tragedy, but I had a personal, I'll just call it a tragedy. A personal tragedy happened within my family in the last couple of days. And I don't want to get into the nitty gritty because the show isn't about me. It's about the greater world of Cleveland sports. I just ask that any of you and all of you, if you have pets out there, especially pets that can be aggressive, please lock them in a cage, not a cage, but a fence. Keep them secure from other animals. It's really your due diligence as a pet owner to be a good pet owner. And if you don't think you can handle that, then please, by all means, go in a different route to take care of your pet. Get rid of the pet in a nice, non-harmful way. I rest my case there. I want to hear what you have to say sports-wise before we send this show home, Matt.
My final thought today, and I think everybody might disagree with this one, is, purely from a football standpoint, not an optics standpoint. if we lose another football game this year, there's no reason to not run DTR out onto the field as much as we can from that point forward.
I
To
forgot
give him
be
the
your
field.
hot take. Go ahead.
I mean, why not? He's young. I still believe he's shown flashes that can develop. Granted, Cleveland is known for, taking quarterback talent, throwing it into Lake Erie, and never seeing it again. So I doubt we did develop him at all. But, I mean, hey, give him the field time. It's not going to make anything worse, that's for sure.
That is an interesting one. I will firmly disagree and go with the crab leg king, the W eater, Jameis Winston, for the rest of the season. This has been another edition of the East Bank Sports Show. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. I'm sorry if my energy has been a little bit lower. I've been a little less on top of it. It's been a really, really long and unexpected, see, there we go again, unexpected day for me. But I still wanted to keep the show going, hang out with Matt, talk some Cleveland sports, and continue on with my week. Cleveland, it's been fun. It's been a good time. Till next time, have a great rest of your week. And I will see you on Wednesday with the At the Office edition of the East Bank Sports Show. Have a good one.